And because we were doing this large one camera shot walking through the whole ferry, we didn't have enough crew to direct all the extras for different scenes.
Yeah.
And this was the job I was working on with radios. And so my person above me was like, right, Michael, this is your chance. The camera's going to come around here. Here's a piece of paper. And on this piece of paper are different sexual positions. Now, just a bit of backstory. I grew up incredibly Christian. And each to their own. I'm not a Christian or religious anymore.
Yeah.
But I had never heard of half of these things. Now, I'd been married for a while. Now, my wife wasn't Christian. She knew what these things were, but she's never told me about them. And I was like, hold on a minute. What is this? What is she doing with two of those? Oh my goodness, it's starting.
It's starting.
Okay.
So, welcome to Tarducks, a podcast for content creators to come share their stories, experiences, and advice. And I have a unique one today. I have Pest's right-hand man. I have Micheal, Captain Tugboat. Welcome.
Yes. He often tells me I'm more of a thorn in his side than a right-hand man.
But you keep him on the straight and narrow, or somebody's got to keep him like sort of reined in, right?
Well, you're making a lot of assumptions right off the bat, young Barry. Am I allowed to call you Barry? Have I just doxed you to the whole world?
Barry, Noof, whatever. I'm Barry. Barry works.
I just learned what dox meant, by the way.
Oh,
but yes, I am technically Paul Pestily's handman.
Yes. All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
All right.
Go.
So what we do on the podcast is to get things rolling. I start with 3 random questions, and then we'll get into it after that. Ready?
Go on.
All right. Favorite place you ever traveled?
Oh, God almighty, where have I traveled? I really enjoyed Scotland. And speaking of, I visited the place where the first Harry Potter book was written in the Elephant Cafe, and you can actually look outside the window and you can see a graveyard and you can see a giant castle and you can see a whole bunch of stuff that kind of inspired some of the scenery. So very much enjoyed Scotland. And I also did a skinny dip in Scotland as well in the ocean.
Nice.
So
very cool. All right. Last movie you saw?
Avatar 2
Yes.
with Paul, Jared, and Decky, the crew that's going to be traveling with us to Europe, and I wept like a child.
Oh.
Even though you already knew what was going to happen, it was probably the most predictable film. It was basically the second one, the first one again reskin.
Yes. Yeah.
But I still cried. It was great.
It was a good movie. I liked how they brought in the different types of alien races, and it just
Well, can we somehow like break the spoiler? Because I just have questions. Are we allowed a spoiler?
I'll throw up a tag beforehand. Or spoiler.
Where did the water people go?
Yes.
The boat was being attacked, and then all of a sudden the water people just fucked off.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, there's still a big whale. Where the fuck did the whale go? He doesn't rock up until the end.
Yep.
And it's just like, what is going on? And then
yes.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
That's okay. For me, that's sort of like Star Wars and Space Leia. That was just I just didn't understand that. Like, why do they have to bring Space Leia in? I don't get that one.
And why do they always have to kill children? I'm the worst. Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Before the third rapid fire question?
Yeah.
Do you have children?
I've got 3.
Oh, wow. Welcome to the club. You probably have older than mine.
Dude, I've been around the sun 50 times.
Jesus, you are an old leather-looking piece of skin.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that with all of the compliments from Australia.
I appreciate that. Yeah. No, I've got 3. I've got a couple in their 20s, 22 and 20. And then, Baby Oops, secretly known as Baby Oops. She's 13.
Baby Oops?
Baby Oops. Through the woods,
Through the keeper, well.
Yeah, no more diapers, strollers. And it's like, oh, guess
was
what?
Was it a little bit like the movie Father of the Bride 2? Where like one child gets married, they fall like at the end of the wedding, you and the wife sit down at the kitchen, have a bottle of wine, make love, and like, you're pregnant.
Yep.
So
we just looked at each other like, oh God, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, but I wouldn't change it for the world, though. Honestly.
No.
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 And you've got a couple or three?
I got three. I'm rocking a just almost 6-month-old,
Yeah.
a 5-year-old she is at least 18, and I'm also worried about anybody that tries to be in a relationship with her because you'll probably need therapy or die. And my son, who's 7, who's a sweetheart. So
Yeah.
I've got her myself.
So
But no, what's your third question? But keep going.
Our third question was going to be if you could sit with anybody in history and have a chat
Yeah.
with, who would you like to sit with and talk with?
Recently, Paul and I discussed this on a podcast, the Neighbours podcast,
Yes.
which I saw you did a bit of a review on. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Who I would sit down with Robin Williams, who's passed away, and then Paul said Hitler.
I saw that. I heard. I was like, that was a. I don't. That's just that was out there.
No, well, on a podcast coming up, Decky, we talked about and this is for the new podcast for our new channel. Decky, and do you know Stir Decky at all?
I've heard of him. I've had like General Sam mention that I should have him on the pod, and a couple other people. So yeah.
Yes, I've heard of General Sam. People have said he's quite funny.
Yes.
But I'm yet to judge that because I've never actually seen anything of him. So, General Sam, if you're watching, I'm judging. Decky was talking. We were talking about who motivates you, and he said Napoleon, and I was like, wasn't he like a dictator that wanted to take over the world and murdered and killed heaps of people?
Yeah.
I'm not too sure. And he's just like, I was just fascinated by him. So yeah, there you go.
Interesting.
But no, mine's Robin Williams. I would just love to speak to him just about everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many questions I'd love to ask,
Yeah. So sad, somebody's so talented and he just came across so happy, but he had his inner demons.
Yeah, it really does make you think about mental health himself. I've had postnatal depression myself, and I've spoken to people and publicly as well. Sometimes you don't even realize you have it, but I don't know what extent people have mental illness, whether it takes them to that point where they just can't go on anymore. So, yeah, at least people. I don't know what it was for your old generation, being age of 50, where you had typewriters and the oil lamps. But at least for me, I'm able to kind of raising my kids, and I'm sure you're the same.
Yeah.
I'm being tongue in cheek. You're able to kind of talk about mental issues and things like that with the younger generation.
Absolutely. Yeah. More so than, when, in the 80s when I was a kid or anything like that, it was just not talking. Oh, he's just a special kid. And that's it. It was left at that. But yeah.
How was the 80s?
80s were so much fun, man. Well, so, I got to experience Star Wars when it came out in the drive-ins.
Did you get the first I Am Your Father feeling?
Not in Star Wars, no. No.
So you didn't get to experience that?
Oh no, I did. I didn't feel. Yes, I didn't foresee it, but yeah, Empire Strikes Back. I was walking through the movie theaters. They had like the frozen Han Solo. Yeah.
What was it like experiencing?
It was
that
amazing.
moment?
And then all the Star Wars commercials, the toys, that whole it was just so special. Yeah.
Because you can't get a shock reaction anymore. I think the last time I got it was when I was watching Game of Thrones when it first came out, and we were downloading every episode. Yeah. And the Red Wedding was the last shock. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
This was before kids. Since having kids, memes, spoilers, everything comes out on social media. You don't get any of that anymore. Like, I think that's a truly lost thing of the world that we don't experience. Truly shocking moments.
Yeah.
So.
Rogue One had a little bit of that for me. It was like more of like about 3/4 of the way through, it was like, holy shit, they're all going to die in this. And it was just like, I really enjoyed that movie too.
Yeah. No, there you go.
Yeah. All right. So, Michael.
Yes.
Who is Michael before you met Paul? What's your background? Where do you come from?
Some people describe me as a packet of chips that when you open it up, it's empty, and what thought was to be full of potential is now empty and full of disappointment. So I'm a disappointing bag of chips.
Oh my God, that's awful.
No. Who am I? So before I met Paul, let's go back to some of my background. So I, straight out of high school, I'll move a bit than high school. I grew up in Australia for most of my life. In high school, I was very theatre, music driven. Out of high school, I tried to pursue that. So I did a few little, I worked full time as a car chemical salesman and a warehouse person, but I was still always trying to make things, do things. I used to, when YouTube first came out, one of my best mates, we did our own stupid stuff, all sorts of things. And eventually, I wanted to get into it full time, so I started doing acting. So I joined a theater group, did a performance, and there was an acting agent there, and they're like, "Come onto our books," and I was like, "This is going to be amazing. I'm going to start getting gigs." Started getting commercials. My very first commercial was for the government. Did an ad for that. I started getting more commercials, and then I got offered a job in Melbourne, which I couldn't take the job, which was hosting a television show. So I had to turn it down because I was getting married. But my wife and I discussed it, and we thought we're going to move to Melbourne, and I'm going to pursue this career. And my wife, basically, it meant I was going to pursue a job which didn't pay anything, and it would take years to get into, and it wasn't necessarily just for acting. So my wife went there, and she worked full time whilst I was working like any construction, labouring, warehousing job in between, trying to get auditions or little runaround production jobs. Eventually, I started through being an extra, and I started to get onto big sets and meeting people and becoming friends. I do have a slight gift of the gab, and I was able to kind of befriend people who were in PA/assistant director roles, and they started to give me emails of people that I could maybe hit up. So eventually I got a gig on a TV series, which was quite large here in Australia, as a runner. So driving cars, picking up cars, picking up the shopping for the office, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And then from that job, I got another one where I was a radio PA, where I took care of all the radios of like 200 crew, and
Holy crap.
on a HBO series called The Leftovers. And even on that job, I kind of stepped up a bit and started to do an on-set PA, which was you do more stuff with extras, which has similar to do with a third assistant director. That's where I first with HBO. I kind of directed porn.
Okay.
And I don't know if I'm allowed to tell this type of stuff.
This is your pod. We're going wherever this takes us.
This is my pod. All right. So HBO, there's a series called The Leftovers, season 3, where there's a big ferry scene, and the people are trying to get from Tasmania to Melbourne, and they're catching this ferry, and the ferry has been hired by a sex cult that worship an old lion. Now, this lion is actually based off a true story where they were trying to get in the zoo these old lionesses all pregnant, and they couldn't get them pregnant. They brought in this old circus lion that had been run down, and it impregnated all of the lionesses. So in real life, this lion is actually worshipped as a fertile sex cult.
Yeah.
So they kind of put that into the story. And there was a real fucking lion on set as well.
Oh my God.
Which was great. So we had a real lion on set, but because it was a sex cult, we had like 200 extras that were just naked.
Oh my God.
So we had 3 types. We had ones that were willing to perform sexual acts, but not actually penetrate or anything like that. So they would perform sexual acts and be naked. We had other ones that would be naked and be sexualized, and we had other ones that would just be in sexy clothing around the background.
Yeah. And
because we were doing this large one camera shot walking through the whole ferry, we didn't have enough crew to direct all the extras for different scenes.
Yeah.
And this is the job I was working on with radios. And so my person above me was like, right, Michael, this is your chance. The camera's going to come around here. Here's a piece of paper. And on this piece of paper are different sexual positions. Now, just a bit of backstory. I grew up incredibly Christian. Each to their own. I'm not a Christian or religious anymore.
Yeah.
But I had never heard of half of these things. Now, I'd been married for a while. Now, my wife wasn't Christian. She knew what these things were, but she's never told me about them. And it's like, hold on a minute. What is this? What is she doing with 2 of those? How is that getting back there? Like, there was so many things, and I was like, I can't say that name out there. Now, there's not just like one age group and they're all pretty. There are people of all ages, all sizes, all amounts of sweat. Yeah. And I was told, all right, you can make these people perform sexual acts. And to start with, I was like, oh, would you mind just doing this one with that person and that there? And they're like, yeah, no worries, mate. We'll fuck that and do that. And I was like, oh my God. By the end of it, I was just like, right, I want you to jerk off these 2 people onto her tits, and it was just like, oh my God, I'm becoming such a. So yeah, I was out of the church by then.
Yep.
So yeah, I'd been telling all these people, and I had it so like people would walk across camera as the camera was moving.
Yeah.
I'd have people moaning and making noises.
Oh my
And I remember
God.
they called action. The camera comes around the corner, and they called cut. And the director's like, "That was a really great last setup. Whoever did that, well done." And I was like, "I'm porn. I'm a porn director." Woo! So yeah, that's that story. So yeah, anyway, I that was my experience with HBO. From there, I started to move on to other better jobs
Yeah.
and made some really close friends with a crew. That once you kind of get in with this crew, you go on all the big jobs. So I
Yeah.
went to Sydney and did some jobs, and I worked on Peter Rabbit. That was one of my last jobs I
nice.
worked on, and just before my daughter was born, my second child. And that's when I started to notice the cracks revealing in the marriage and in the stress of my wife because she was in Melbourne by herself.
Oh.
We were from South Australia, which
Yeah.
is another state over. And she was alone. My parents were there, but they're very religious, very pressuring. So she didn't feel like she had anyone, and I didn't recognize these signs, and that was on me as a husband. And when I came back, I had to go away for 3 months. So I came back, and my son was completely different. I'd noticed that there was just no, like, the communication with me and my wife was unbalanced and not on, and I wasn't recognizing things, and we were both dealing with depression and things like that. So I ended up giving up. I did a couple more jobs. I did one more series called Picking a Hanging Rock, where I worked with a girl from Game of Thrones, Natalie Dormer. She was really cool. She's the most experienced, I wouldn't say experienced, but one of the most professional actors I've ever worked with. Like, she's incredible. Great laugh, but like, she walks onto set and you just like, holy cow, you're an incredible actor. But no, I did that job, and then I kind of just said, I don't know if I said I was going to quit, but I was going to stop. So I was driving an Uber. I said to my wife, right, I'd finally cracked into the industry, and I was like, right, I'm gonna stop. I was getting offers to go overseas. I was getting offers to do all sorts of stuff, and it was the hardest thing to give up because I was in this crew. Once you're in this crew, like, you'd be stupid to get out. Um, even I made friends with directors and stuff like that as well. It's not me blowing up an amazing person. I made friendships with people, and once people know how you work, they don't like to have to re-groom and do that. So, but I went back to Adelaide, South Australia, gave up everything, and I went and sold carpet for 3 years, which was one of the most soul-destroying things I've ever done. Going from, because once you start to become an assistant director, you start to get more responsibility. People look to you for leadership, etc. You get to call the shots a little bit more. You have a lot more purpose on set, and then you kind of go back to being a lowly carpet salesman. And I need to rephrase that because I ended up very much appreciating this job I had, but yeah, it was really hard. But eventually, I kind of humbled myself, and I'm sounding like I'm a big dick here. Like, look at me, I humbled myself. But I had to humble myself because I needed to realize that this job was a good job. It was well paying. For a sales job, it was easy to do. I saw my family more.
Exactly,
My marriage
yeah.
was getting better. I'd almost lost a little bit of love of creativity in the film industry because I was doing so much logistics and communication. I didn't create stuff anymore. I stopped being funny. I was being funny on set with people in a limited way, but I wasn't being creative. So during my spare time now that I had, I was getting together with friends and starting to make things slowly. So I learned to love my craft again, learned to enjoy what I did. And I never did it to work in the industry again. I did it to enjoy what I was doing. I made videos to be happy, and I worked on my family life to be happy. And then I had an income from a job I didn't love and I honestly hated, but I was appreciative of. And it all balanced itself out. Eventually, I needed to move on from there because I needed more money because apparently, children, and trying to buy my first home. And I went to work in the mines for a year as a scaffolder. I've never scaffolded. I hate heights. And this was the period where I met Paul. So it's literally like the day I was at his house for a barbecue. I was like, oh, I start my scaffolding gig. Cool. And I'd be away for a week or 2 weeks, and I'd come home for a week, and me and Paul would catch up, play the footy. And then literally went for a year. And then, Paul asked me to come on a road trip with him, and he said, I'm thinking of hiring you. And I was like, fuck off. I've got a very, very good paying job in the mine. So when you
Right.
work in the mines, they pay you well. And he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll match it. And I was like, fuck off. So, you know, I don't want to go into too much details
Yeah,
about it.
no.
All I know is I'm very grateful of it,
That's
and I work
fantastic.
for it as best as I can.
Excellent.
So yeah, he always says, Michael, you've got one job, and then yells at me, and I'm like, I don't really know what the job is, but I'm trying. So that is me before it. I can go further back into like
No,
my childhood,
that's
but I don't
okay.
think we need to.
No, we don't need to do that. Now,
Yeah.
now, where did you guys meet? I think I saw one video or when he was on the pod, he talked about meeting you at a music.
Mm-hmm.
You guys were doing some merch for some musical artist
Yeah.
or something like that.
No, the reason we met was because of my wife. My
Ah,
wife has been following Nathan Cavalleri. Now, have you done
that's
anything on Nathan Cavalleri?
I haven't, but I remember Pest bringing him onto his, just really
Mm-hmm.
promoting him
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot on his streams a
Yeah.
few years back.
No, he will be one of our guests. We are organising it on our podcast. But
Yeah.
Nathan Cavalleri is a child prodigy guitarist who's now our age.
Yeah.
But he was also a child that had leukemia who could play guitar like nobody else, like Tommy Emmanuel, Steve Vai. You pick him out, anybody that could play guitar. And my wife was a massive fan of him when he was like from 8 all the way through.
Yeah.
But no, he won the battle over his leukemia.
Yeah.
But I think eventually he kind of, I'm not too sure about his story, and I want to talk to you about him more about it. But my wife, he disappeared for a while, and then he's come back as an adult, getting back into music. And my wife was like, "We've got to go see him." And because he's a lot smaller now, when you talk to, a lot of people that talk to me on my Instagram now, I'm slowly growing. I can still be really personable because I have time. It's not getting millions of messages.
Right.
So he and my wife have made friendship. I made friendship with him when I was at a gig, and I may have yelled out something inappropriate drunkenly, and he laughed. But yeah, he asked us to sell some merch at his event.
Yeah.
Which Paul was doing some streaming at that event,
Yeah.
and then we were all catching up with Nathan after, and that's where it kind of happened.
That's so cool.
Where do you live? Oh, I live here. Oh, I live on that street. I live on that street. Oh, who do you barrack for? I barrack for that one. Oh,
Yeah.
we should hang out, and that's how we met.
Now, did you have any idea or concept of what Twitch was, or YouTube? Yes, but Twitch.
No, I knew there was like live streaming, but
Yeah.
I'd never heard of Twitch.
Yeah.
And I still don't understand it. I just streamed today.
Yeah.
And I still don't understand it. I learned what debating is,
Okay.
but I still don't know what it is. I heard the term and someone explained it, but I still don't get what it is.
Yeah.
I know that pressing Alt F4 closes the game, doesn't get you through to the next mission.
Yep.
And Kek W means lol in Warcraft.
Yeah,
mode.
there's all these things as like poggers and things like that.
Yeah, Pog. Yeah,
I just yeah. Okay. All right.
us old people, Barry. It's those youngins.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Yeah, no, I'm the same way. A couple of years back, well, before I found the game that Pest, is famous for, Tarkov, I, the Twitch, like, who wants to watch anybody play video games? Like, how stupid is that?
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, this is like people's entertainment. It is, it's people's personalities. You're not just watching somebody play a game. You're the community, and it's such a great concept. What it is.
It's a great concept as well, but it's not easy to do.
No.
It looks easy, but so I've just started, and I've got a monitor on my right. I've never had more than one fucking monitor before. This is insane. So I've got a second monitor. I've never had a PC that's like not.
Yeah.
This is Paul's old PC, which was only given to him like a year ago. So,
Yeah.
Everything runs fast, and I don't have a little paperclip down the bottom telling me how to run Word.
Yeah.
But yeah, like trying to read chat, play a game, and concentrate on Paul abusing me for not doing my job properly with the game.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. But when I watch him do it,
Mm-hmm.
he will read out every single person that's subscribed. Now he's got what 1.3 million followers and like
Yeah.
averages 5 to 10,000 people at a time.
Yeah.
I average like 5 to 2 people at a time, and I'm struggling to read like, "Thank you for subscribing." Yes, I can do that. And Paul's like, "What are you talking?" Like, "Oh, I'm reading. I'm thanking people." And it's like, ah. And meanwhile, he's reading, he's shooting, he's jumping. It's like, I swear he's got ADHD. And it's great. He's very talented.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's
Yeah.
exhausting mentally as well.
It is, and I've had a whole bunch of people on, and it's like some of them are doing this 8 to 10 hours a day. they never see outside, and it's from a mental health standpoint, you do this 6 days a week for a year.
Yeah.
It's you're not having that human to human contact. It's a one way
Yeah.
communication of talking and just reading, and
Correct.
it
Correct.
has to drain on you. Absolutely.
No. I think that's one of the main reasons Paul has brought me on. And he's told me that. Like, I'm like, oh, was it because of my work ethic, my skill? He's like, nah, it's just going to get me outside more and I'll be able to hang out with friends.
Yeah.
Right. So I have no ability that's good. Like, am I good at anything? He's like, nah, literally just friendship and I can now do stuff outside. That's fine. I'll just go home and tell my kids that I'm doing a great job and being paid to be a friend.
Oh, my God.
But no, like I take a lot of admin stuff off him when I can. Like setting up events, he doesn't have to run around and do a lot of stuff behind the scenes now.
Yeah.
He can just focus on what he needs to do. And we can have a lot more fun with events too. Over the Christmas period, we did my first event with him, which was the subathon with Daddy Toast. Daddy Toast, there's someone who's great. If you can ever sit down with someone, that man is a kindred spirit.
Absolutely.
Oh, not just a gentleman. What's a human being of the world that deserves to be praised?
Yeah.
So Daddy Toast, if you're watching this, I can't wait to have another martini with you. And I want to play, I don't know if you ever watched one of our streams, but we played something called Teach Me Daddy during Taco. Do you know what Teach Me Daddy is called?
No. I can only imagine.
I come up with different slogans. I've come up with Flashbang Santa. I've done 2 birds, 1 stone. I've done 3 birds, 1 stone with Paul. He didn't like that. But Teach Me Daddy was we taped his hands to the top of mine.
Oh, God.
And then we put them on the keyboard and then he had to use my hand. Like he had to press. I wasn't allowed to touch.
Yeah.
Like he had to press my fingers during Tarkov.
My God.
And it's called Teach Me Daddy. It's one of my favorite things.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, so, I had Toast on about less than a year ago. And what a kind soul. You just, like you said, a kindred spirit, just like, what an amazing
a bosom friend.
Yeah. So is he as nice in person as he comes across on screen?
One of his favorite things is like, I don't like conflict. And I'm like, I can tell. It's just very, I love him. He's just so polite and in every way. But one of the greatest things about him is that he can quote the movie Princess Bride like no other.
Oh, really?
And that's one of my favorite movies. So it's good.
That is a great movie.
I enjoy a lot of old films. That's how I connected with my grandmother growing up, was enjoying films of Danny Kaye, Errol Flynn.
Oh, okay.
Judi Dench's As Time Goes By series with Jeffrey Palmer. So here are all the gamers just being like, I'm clicking off now. This is boring information. Yeah.
Oh, man. What did you ever watch Snatch? With Snatch with Brad Pitt. It's a Guy Ritchie movie.
By a Guy Ritchie film.
Yes.
He also did Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Yeah, Snatch is probably one of my favorites, just from the soundtrack, the cinematography,
Correct.
the dialect, or it's so good, so well done.
Yeah. We recently did a sponsor sizzle reel, that we call it. So we're reaching out to sponsors. We wanted to do a little video clip. And I asked, when we did the montage scene where it stops on the person and zooms in, I literally sent him the Snatch intro where it copies all the characters, and I went, copy that. That's what I want. And he did it. And I was like, beautiful.
Yes. So well done. Oh, man, that movie's so good. Yeah, like the characters, Bullet Tooth Tony, it's just, man. Yep.
Tommy the Gun.
Yeah.
All sorts of things. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So now, when was your first interaction or your first video with Paul?
Our first video, let me think about that. I'm pretty sure the first interaction with Paul, so I kind of came on board and it happened real quick. Like I was out of the mines within a month.
Yeah.
And then I was planning on having like another month off just with family, and like a week later, he's like, "Do you want to start early?" I was like, "Oh, okay." And then we were creating another sizzle reel for something else. So it wasn't a filming thing. We were creating a sizzle reel, and the editor that got tasked onto it was Nafa. And Paul's like, all right, we got to make a sizzle reel about me and my gaming. So this is stuff that you guys don't get to see because we're sending it to clients and things like that as well. And so we basically had to take a whole bunch of footage and create a story about what pumps up Paul. We had to show off his numbers. We had to show how he got started. But Paul didn't do any voiceover for it. So I was learning a lot about it as well. And I remember my first experience with the editor is I listened to all this music like that we have royalty free, and I'm like, and I consider myself like, I know what works with music. I know what doesn't sound cheesy, what doesn't sound like it's been done on a MIDI keyboard.
Right.
So I chose this song and I sent it through and I'm like, this is the song we're going to use. And Nafe, our German editor, was just like, I don't really like it in my opinion. I'm going to choose a different one. And I was just like, what? I've just been introduced as the producer. Don't you know my background? I directed porn. Like, it's, it was a sobering moment for me being like, oh,
Okay.
well, maybe I should listen. Like, maybe I can't get hung up on these little things. And I'm a very friendly, kind person, easy person to work with.
Yeah.
But it was just such a, like, straight off the bat, it was just like, oh, I don't like it. I'm like, I just spent 3 hours picking this song. That was my first experience making that. And then our first filming experience was the jelly bean wine video. Or it might be a steak video on YouTube now, where we were given 80 kilos of jelly beans from Starlight Foundation because they were going off. So because they couldn't sell them anymore, they just gave them to us, and we just thought, all right. So we hit up Twitter, asked what they want us to do, and they came up with all sorts of ideas. We tried to replicate it as much as we could, but the main one we did was we turned it into jelly bean wine, and then we drank it and ate it afterwards. So obviously we stomped it in a feet with the barrel and did all that, and we sold it on auction as well. So we raised a lot of money, and I'm pretty sure one of them went for 10 grand.
Holy crap. That is so cool. Isn't that one thing that amazes you with the gaming, the gaming community, the amount of charity work that's done and the money that's raised for the charities?
I have to say, so my experience with the gaming community has mainly been Tarkov related.
Yeah.
I don't know if the people that follow me on my stream are purely Tarkov. Some are from other streamers that I've been working with. But I have to say, I hear a lot of things about, this community is toxic, blah, blah, blah. In terms of when it comes to the generosity and people get, like, when you talk about things like mental health on stream, or someone's saying they're having a bad day and you try to encourage them, how quickly the community comes around and gets behind them.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I didn't expect it from gamers, but to be honest, I know a lot of gamers out there in the real world, and they're just as kind and friendly, and nobody wants to pull people down. But especially with the charity, like we did a fireman calendar, people got right behind it. And I'll even say outside of charity, even when we're doing subathons and we're doing stupid stuff to entertain, people are still really encouraging and appreciative of the effort that we're going to.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know if people take that for granted, but I don't take for granted how much that means to me as an entertainer.
Yeah.
Because that's what we consider. Paul and I have talked about it before. As he's not a gamer, he's an entertainer.
Yeah.
When we put us together, we're not gamers, we're entertainers. A gamer can sit there, defeat the game, do a speed run. That's not necessarily entertaining. That's just proving a point that you can speed run.
Right.
Entertaining is keeping people engaged,
and
talking back and forth, and actually giving yourself to the audience. So I've loved the encouragement. I've loved the charity, and some people that give. I don't know how rich they are or not. And as a person that I'm comfortable now financially, ever since, I kind of got out of the carpet game, and I'm very working in the mines and very generous with working with Paul. But when people subscribe, part of me goes, shit, are they in the situation that I was when I was selling carpet, where I was trying to make ends meet? I was only earning 50 grand a year. Well, and that's only about 30 grand American.
Yeah.
Kids, I'm like, this is just I'm overwhelmed with the generosity of people. And it's not just for subscriptions to us, but generosity in charity as well. So the community in gaming is it's not just community. Like the old people say, games make people murder people. No, they don't.
Yep.
You should see the community and the stuff that gets done.
Right. Absolutely. It's pretty cool. Going back though, something I forgot. When you were talking about extras and porn, with extras in the movie industry or film industry, TV industry, do the extras get paid, or is that a volunteer?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Honestly, it depends on what type of extra you're being on what type of set. Like I was an actor and an assistant director, and I never got paid.
Yeah.
Depends on what job you're working. Sometimes you when you first start out, you take whatever the fuck you can just to get your name out there, and just to get experience. If I can express to people, if you ever want to get into the film industry, start off as a stand-in or an extra. So a stand-in is someone, so say for example, Barry, you're really famous.
Yeah.
All right. And right now you've got a lighting set up, you've got a camera set up in front of you, but you don't want to sit there and wait for it to all be set up around you. You're an actor. You want to focus on being a talent. So you go to your trailer, do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
Me, I will now come and sit in your chair while the director and everything, they spend an hour, 2 hours setting up everything. and you just sit there and you keep your mouth shut. And I learnt this the hard way because I'm a mouthy little fucker talking, where the first assistant director basically just stood there after I was asking questions, just being like, stand-ins don't talk. And I was just like, okay. And it was in front of everyone, and I was just like, oops. And that was very like, okay, I now know my place.
Yeah.
I'm going to shut the fuck up. But when you stand there and you just watch everything and the communication between it, you understand how it works.
Yeah.
Being an extra, you keep your mouth shut until you're told to do something.
Yeah.
You like, just don't try be a stand-in or an extra and try be, what you're not.
Right.
Play your role, play it well, because that's being an extra. You come in and you're in the background. Background people aren't meant to be seen. They're meant to feel the background.
Yeah.
Seen not heard, whatever the term is. And that's how I started. Eventually I learned whatever role I'm taking, I'm going to put myself into that role.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do get paid. Some extras get paid well. So I was on a series called Gallipoli, which is on Netflix now in Australia. But it was on a TV series here. And I was on set for like 2-3 months. So that they hired the same group of guys to be the platoon around the main actors. So the main actors and us, we all went away to a boot camp. We all did training together. We all shot guns with fake rounds. We all did dyeing. We all did learning how to dress properly, how to march properly, everything. We did that for months. And then we were on set for months as well. And we got paid incredibly well because, we'd make sometimes $1,500 to $2,000 a week because we're on set for 12 hours a day. And sometimes you'll just sit there and do nothing.
That's crazy.
But they pay the same 30 guys. Now, I dressed up as a Turkish person, an Australian, a light horseman, and I died probably about 10 times in that series.
Yeah.
But they just kept recycling the same 30 of us through. So, yeah, but being an extra can be a paid gig. If you can get in with an acting agency, take it. Do what you can.
Yeah.
But I do encourage you. I always kept working when I couldn't get the gig.
Yeah.
So I signed up to a recruitment agency, and that kept me going.
Yeah.
Having money come in and still working a job that I didn't enjoy doing, but then you got the job come in.
Right.
Like, yes, I can stop this now and I can go do that.
Yeah.
Rather than just waiting and getting depressed, nothing's happening. So it's like you had to do what you had to do. So
and that makes me think how the money, how much it costs to make these productions must be astronomical.
I was the director from Peter Rabbit. I asked him, questions on how much things cost, and like this was millions to cost. And he said they came to it. The reason why they filmed it in Australia is because the government put a grant of $50 million towards the film.
Wow.
We can do a quick exercise now. If you have $100,000
Yeah.
and you want to do a scene with 10 people
Yeah.
in the shot, but only 2 of them are the main actors and 8 of them are the thing, you've got to kind of then weigh up, all right, well, then how much are the extras? Let's say we're paying them $200 a day each.
Yeah.
Right? So we've got 200 times 8, that's $1,600 right there. Then we've got the actors, we're going to pay them $1,000 a day each maybe, or they might be cheap, they might be $300 a day each.
Yeah.
Then you've got that, then you've got camera people. You pay them, but then how do you feed them? They're on set for 12 hours a day. So you've got to pay a caterer, then you've got to feed them. Once you've done that, you're at a location. Does this location cost us any money? All right, well, now that we're doing 12 hours, are we filming at nighttime? Does that mean we need lights? All right, well, we've got to pay lighting people. Then we've got to hire lighting gear because if we want to do it cheaper, we've got to get a person that knows lighting, but then we can hire the stuff. Like there's so many costs and things. And this is the thing that with Paul that frustrates me the most is he'll come up with an idea and he's an incredible visionary. If we don't have Paul, we don't have vision, and we don't have and we're talking crazy vision.
Yes.
Like Michael, I want to throw a gaming chair out of a plane.
Exactly.
And it's just like, oh, okay. And then there's me, and because I've been on these sets, I go, well, how are we filming this? Are we guerrilla filming this? Are we just getting one camera? Are we filming it from a phone? What's the quality? What's the story? And that's the dance that Paul and I do backwards, where he'll think I'm trying to discourage him, and I'm like, no, I'm asking how.
Yeah.
How are we wanting to do it so we can figure out our budget? And then he just says, you don't want to do this. I'm going to go home and ask somebody else. I'm like, fuck you, come here and we're going to figure it out. And then I do it. We go over budget. And then he's like, oh, we can't spend money anymore. Christina said no. And I was like, okay. So, these things cost a lot of money and a lot of thought that people don't consider when they want to, person wants to go out and make their own film. There's so many little details. And if you try to do everything yourself, you burn yourself out. It's Paul did something really clever when you can pay someone else to do some of the little jobs,
Mm-hmm.
you'll grow so much quicker. He
Yeah.
started paying editors, he started paying mods, he started paying people that do social media stuff,
Yeah.
all the background stuff, and then he can just focus on his making content.
Yeah.
But now we're going into a whole new era a whole new genre. We're doing documentary style
Right.
vlogging.
Yep.
He can say he's a content creator, but for him and I, this is not really this is our first real proper
A production.
time production.
Yeah.
Correct. We've done last year, the first 6 months and we had a whole bunch of IRL videos come out.
Yeah.
But that was more to see what we could handle, see how we would go working together, see how people would respond to the thing, to our productions. And now we're trying to do it, and we're still doing it with a small crew. So there's still a lot for us to learn.
Yeah.
And I'm doing stuff that I've never done before as well. I've done a lot, but this is like you're now doing it by yourself. I don't have a crew and an office of people who have their role. I am the role. Paul is now doing extra stuff. We've got Jared and Decky, but it's going to be an incredible year for us.
Now, did Paul know your complete background before or was it just you guys connected and let's roll? And because what you bring to the table is basically a lot of what he was missing to take him to that next level.
Yeah, I think if he searched around, he would have found someone. I think, and I did. We had small conversations about what I'd done, and I'm not sure how. I think he knew that I had a personality, but I don't know how he thought I would go in front of camera.
Yeah.
And the honest truth of it is, I've been working in front of camera before I worked in the film industry.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a very public Christian upbringing, and in large churches, and I was kind of put on display very young, with music and with arts and all sorts of stuff. So I had no issue with performing in front of a camera.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Paul understood that to the extent, but I think he knew that I could talk in front of camera.
Yeah.
I've had to learn how to watch how I speak in front of live audiences because I've come from the mines where you swear and say things like a sailor.
Yeah.
And not things you necessarily mean, but it's honestly a terrible attitude to have when you're in the mines because it's not the right things to say, but you say it because you're out there, it's 45 degrees and you're like, fuck this, this person. When, now I have to go, oh, no, I actually need to come back and cut it back. But no, I don't know how much of an extent he had, but I think he knew my background. We talked about it a little bit. I don't know if he appreciates, and I hope he's listening now, I don't know if he appreciates the amount I do behind the scenes that he doesn't know about.
Yeah.
And I wish everything was as in, he'll say something and in his mind it's from A to B.
Yeah.
When he says it to me, I know it's A, B, C, D. And now we're at this point, but there's a lot of running around back and forth. And,
Yeah. Two things I want to hit on is one is you were right about taking his talent and focusing on what he does, and he has he's able to foresee that. Like you said earlier, when he was on the pod, he talked about hiring an editor to take care of stuff so he could just focus on his talent, and that's great advice that he shared with everybody else. Is like once you get to that point, do it because then you focus on what's going to get you paid.
Yeah, and one great thing about Paul is, and this is slightly off your topic, but one thing about Paul is, and this is me pumping up, and I hope he's not listening now. Is he always says this term, a rising tide lifts all ships. And he is always willing to give advice and even pump people up just to kind of get them going. And I love the collaborations he's doing now. And I think that's what I want to do. If Paul and I have a contract and we understand if the contract ends, he and I will still watch football and play board games.
Yeah.
But if the contract ends, I'd probably would do the same. I'd collaborate a lot more. I don't know if I'd stream. I'd probably focus on YouTube content. But I would focus on going to other people, a bit like what you're doing. You go around and you lift other people up, and you give the other people opportunity, and you cross pollinate and all that jazz, and that's really, really good. Now, with Paul, having me on board helps him focus the vision a lot more. And the dynamic between he and I is he's the visionary and I'm the person that kind of brings the vision to reality a little bit. But he's also the person that can be the blunt one and say, no, it's not going to be this way. It's this way, the highway. And I can be the emotional one that can say, but think about feelings, Paul, because Paul doesn't have any feelings. He's on it. Like, honestly, one of my main goals in Europe is to make him feel.
Make him cry?
Yes. Make him cry. I don't think I'll make him cry because he didn't even cry at the birth of his daughter. Whereas me, on the other hand, every single child I had, I wept. Like as soon as the kid came out,
Yeah.
like if I could let go, I was like, oh, that was an effort.
Let me ask you a question. Were you like that before your first child came along, or did the feelings come out after you? Like, because for me, after my first child, is like news hit different. Watching movies, songs, just like it hit differently.
Yeah, Dobby dying in Harry Potter.
Oh
It's
my
different
God!
now.
Yes.
Oh, it's so bad.
Yeah.
No, I was emotional, but not to the extent that I am now. Now I'm half Italian.
Yeah.
So that just, I feel a lot of things. But as soon as I had kids, like Toy Story 3 ruins me every time. Like I'll be watching a bloody commercial and I'll start tearing up. I'll be anything to do with kids. Like I'm a mess.
Yeah.
I've done a whole bunch of physical exhaustion through a marathon. We ran a marathon recently.
Yeah.
At the end, we got to it. I went and lay down and just cried.
Oh wow.
I was just so overwhelmed. I
Yeah.
started thinking about the achievement. Like, I finally have this opportunity. I'm a ex-carpet salesman that gave up everything, and all of a sudden I'm running a marathon.
Yeah.
Like I feel things so much more. And I don't know if it's the term is empathy or I empathize. I feel other people. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
That's kids. They ruin you.
Yeah, absolutely. And now back to productions. Now, with you and Pest, are you guys taking production to the next level of outside of YouTube, maybe to, production?
OnlyFans?
No, not OnlyFans. Okay. No. not where I was going, but along the lines of you guys creating content that may be bought by, like the Netflixes, those type of
the
places.
Netflix era. We have been approached by places like that before, and we've put things like that on hold. One thing that we're focusing on now is this current year.
Yeah.
And this current year is Paul has always wanted to do this trip, going across Europe and hiking mountains.
Yeah.
So whether we were making content or not, we would be doing this trip.
Yeah.
Whilst we're there, we thought, fuck it. Let's try and film this. We're not going to try and craft a story too much. We're going to film as much as we can on the go and see if we can pull stories from it. But what we want to do is create redemptive content. So it's not necessarily about becoming popular, famous. It's about making content that makes people watch it and go, I got something from it.
Yeah.
It can be a negative, it can be a positive, but it's not. You're actually trying to create something that you give back to your audience rather than just clickbait. Like you're not just going for clicks and retention.
Something
like
to motivate them and
correct.
Yes.
And that's what we're doing about the podcast, is the new podcast as well. We're wanting it to be something where people can listen and get something from it. Hearing people that have succeeded, but also been at the bottom of a well and they've managed to get out of it. And we want people to be able to hear what they were like. But no, that's what this year is about. We're going to do this trip. If we make content that doesn't go anywhere, but we make content that we're proud of, that gives to people.
Yeah.
We're happy. We brush our hands, say we've made a year of great content. Paul and I say we'll see what next year looks like, but we'll move on. We'll watch some football. Yeah. If things go well, I don't know if we'll because the money you can make from YouTube is a lot more than what you can get from a production company.
Yeah.
A production company might offer us to do a season and might only offer 600,000 as a profit, and then maybe offer, 300,000 to make it, or they might only offer 600,000 to do everything, and what's left over is the profit. That, what if it takes us $500,000 to $550,000 to pay for it, and it takes us a year to do it? Paul and I are going to do 50 grand each, and survive the year, and then that's it's and then we've got two others on well, and we've got to pay them as well. And it's like,
it's an interesting
networks. Go on.
I was going to say, it's an interesting dynamic where basically you have this, I don't say it's a shift, but you could take the content you create, throw it up on YouTube without having third parties involved to help promote it. Almost like the music industry, it's the same thing. People have all the tools themselves to do it. They don't need the label to help promote and create the disc and things like that.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think, why we want to push YouTube, is because we can make it how we want. As soon as you bring on a network, you are restricted to creativity. Goes out the window. You can be creative and put your idea forward, but it's going to get cut up into a different piece. You could put a beautiful swan. This is a picture of my beautiful swan clay, and then they'll mold it into a tiny baby hippo that has nothing to do with what you wanted. And then obviously budget, you're restricted by their budget now. And Whereas now we have our system, our budget. We can be as creative as we want. We can
Yep.
push it any direction. And even after that, I think we would still push YouTube. You can
Yeah.
make a lot of money from YouTube. I haven't done it personally, and even for Paul, I know this is exciting. And when we say, "Oh, Paul is an expert at this," I don't know if he and I are experts on this type of style in YouTube. Paul is making his money from YouTube through gaming.
Yeah.
But this is brand new, and that's why we're starting a brand new channel, so we can get a brand new audience that isn't held to gaming.
True.
We're trying to bring in everything else so we can have a different algorithm. And I'm learning words like algorithm now.
Yeah.
The fuck? Like, Barry,
Yep.
I used to sell carpet, a solution-dyed nylon carpet, which would be really good if you have a cut pile.
Yeah.
It'd be great underfoot, but you will, when you vacuum, it will have a shadow pattern back and forth. If you get a low-level loop pile, when you vacuum, there's no shading because it's going to do much better on the hallway. That's the type of shit that's in my brain still. And now I'm learning algorithm.
Yes. Yep.
This is,
When to post, what's a good day to post the videos and things like that.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But I have to say, Paul is an expert at research. Like, he'll see something and he'll be like, I want to learn everything about this.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. I'm going to learn if he was a carpet salesman, he probably would have smashed me. Wrong. I have charisma. He does not. He tends to learn everything about it, and he studies it and he watches it evolve. So with YouTube, it's evolving. Since working with him, we've changed our methods several times to try and tweak things. And all sorts. And I imagine that's not going to change with our new channel. Where as soon as we have 3 videos out, he'll be looking at it and he'll be, all right, what went wrong here? Let's look at where it dropped here.
Yeah.
Let's do this, that, there. Obviously, keeping in mind our main goal of making redemptive content, but we still want to make good. And he always says the highest quality. We're going to do the highest quality of what we know and what we can achieve.
Yeah.
And this is what I will encourage people to do who are out there that want to make something. Make it. If it's shit, post it. I don't care. Post it, because people will watch it. They'll criticize it. You'll criticize it. The next time you make it, it'll get better. If you don't make stuff, you'll never improve. If you don't try, you'll do nothing.
That's very true. Yep.
Do.
Yep.
So.
And the quality is like, years ago you had I was on the broadcast side of things. The quality, editing had to be avid, and you had to have all high end. And now there were nobody's going to watch anything people record on their phones, and it's just like you said, put it out there. People will consume it.
My son's teacher last year taught a lesson which hit me real in the feels. Was that you can make great mistakes. Like mistakes are great. You learn from them. Make great mistakes.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, that's awesome. Yeah. Like, don't be, you will make them. There's nobody that you're 50 years old. Your life is a mistake.
Yeah.
I can't wait when I meet you, I'm going to embrace you. I'm going to give you a hug, and I'm going to apologize for all this meanness. But like, I'm so happy that my kids are learning this type of stuff. Like, doesn't matter if you make mistakes, you learn from them and you enjoy them. I think we're so afraid of rejection and disappointment that we never step out and give things a go. So how exciting for the future, young Bazza.
Absolutely. Yeah. So now, out of all the, I guess let's talk about your European excursion. You guys did a test run to Indonesia, right?
Indonesia is the term.
Now you guys are all, nobody really hung out with each other before, right? No. So you're taking like, a bunch of sort of strangers who've never went backpacking before. And now have you gone backpacking and hiking and, things like that? I've
never really done a boys trip.
Yeah.
Overseas. Well, I've done like boys trips when I was camping and stuff like that, but nothing like this. And I've never done it where you kind of meet people online, come together. The main reason of this, we went through a real extensive auditioning process. Now, you might have heard of this from Paul. Went through a real extensive auditioning process. We chose Decky, who's a streamer, and and Jared, who had no idea who Pestily was.
He had no clue?
And I loved it. It was the greatest thing ever. He's Canadian.
Oh, okay.
And he's very well spoken. He's a young Canadian, but he's an adventurer. So like he has his own hiking business. All sorts of things. And he's very handsome. But it was one of the coolest things to come there and not know. Me and Paul knew each other, but it was like, how's the dynamic going to work? Is it going to work? And it started off a little bit like awkward. It's like a little bit when you try to kiss your first, your very first kiss.
Yeah.
And you grew up Christian, and you're like, how do we do this?
Yeah.
Like, do we kiss on the mouth? Where do the noses go? Like, am I being watched? Like, how much saliva?
Yes.
Left, right, all that. That's how it felt. And then we did the volcano, and like things clicked.
Yeah.
We climbed a volcano together, and all of a sudden, it wasn't just like how personalities fit; it was also how physically we were going to fit with the team.
Yeah.
Jared was, he swapped out bags with me because I couldn't handle the weight, and I was dying.
Yeah.
Decky was like, Decky somehow keeps up the motivation of the team by just being a loud weirdo.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can explain. He's hilarious, but he's just the loudest weirdo. And Paul is and you're going to hear this term all the time, is a mental vault that just keeps powering on. I don't really know what I bring to the team other than making sure that everybody's, emotionally okay and, and fed. But we seemed to fit. And by the end of that trip, we'd done surfing, we'd done water slides together, and Decky's scared to death of them. We did Jeep tours around volcanoes,
Wow.
did helicopter rides. And it was all go, 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 go. We were visiting temples. Like literally, I did hardly any sleep on this. It was all, let's make content. Let's see how we go. Let's make mistakes. Okay, the batteries didn't work here. This camera didn't work here. Michael can physically not film anything when we're doing anything physical. We were learning our place, and it was a great trip. And I would, if you're ever going to do something like that, before you do your big dance, make sure you do a rehearsal like that. Where, correct. And it's even in its working basic. If you're going to sell carpet with a bunch of guys, take them out and see how they go in physically exerting situations. Because when you're physically exhausted, the real you seems to come out.
Yeah.
I see shadows by the door. I wonder if he's coming in. Don't know.
Because you take some strange people or strangers, and you don't know how far you could push people. You don't know what buttons they can take. Like, you don't know if you say a comment, they're gonna take it to the feelings, and yeah. So that's good that you guys did that test run, and now, all right, you're ready for the big dance.
We are, honestly, we're much more ready for it. I don't know if we're 100% prepared mentally and emotionally for what Europe's going to be, because that was only 12 days we were away. It will be 35 days.
Yeah.
So in the mines, every 2 weeks you have a rest day.
Yeah.
We've kind of gone with that. Every 2 weeks, every 14 days, we're going to be having a rest period where we have a room each where we can do anything we want. We can sit there and masturbate against the wall. We can ring our family. We can just be away from each other.
Yeah.
But no, that we don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting.
And now, on that first that rehearsal trip, did any technology or any equipment you brought with you that you thought was going to be, really wonderful, that like, we don't need that. Didn't work. What kind of lessons did you guys learn from that first rehearsal?
One of the lessons. No, I'm pretty good. I packed the bag pretty well. We used everything.
Nice.
Because I'd spent 6 months prior running around and filming similar type of stuff.
Yeah.
I had a basic idea of what was handy. And because I have filmed a lot of things, I kind of have when we go out to certain things, I'm like, all right, we're only going to bring our phones to this. All right, now we're doing something a little bit more. We'll do some phones and a GoPro. Okay, we're doing a big thing now. Main camera, 2 GoPros, some phones. There is that. One thing I am learning, well, I've always known, is don't be afraid just to whip out your phone and film stuff. Yeah. Phones are that good nowadays. I was making content back in the days with the mini DV videotapes. Use your phone. Don't be afraid to start small. Use that type of footage, because it's not necessarily how it looks is key. Your content is king.
Yeah.
What your story that you're creating or what you're saying, that's the key, and that's the king of your footage. Yeah. My uncle taught me that. So it doesn't matter if you film it off an old Samsung 20, even though they've got Samsung 23s. Focus on how you're going to tell the story. Yeah. Once you've got that, then you can start to adapt of how many cameras you add around it, how much quality you want. Whereas in my mind, not every shot needs to be filmed in 4K at the highest resolution. Right. When I can just whip out a montage shot and driving in a car. Yeah. Phone, click, done. It's you learn from doing. And I think the last 6 months plus all my previous experiences taught me how to capture it as best as you can with minimal amount of things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. One thing that stuffed us up the most, though, was the streaming backpack.
Yeah.
And we were hoping to stream live, but we just had some issues with SIM cards, which they should be fixed now.
Yeah.
And another issue that we're having is battery power. You can't take the big battery packs on planes.
Oh.
And the battery pack that we have is not just like a simple, it's got what charges our little system to go live is like a DC jack port. I'm like, who the fuck has, like, that's the worst thing ever. So now it's all USB-C and it's just so all the power banks are USB-C. So trying to track down a power bank that would do it. Bye, Paul. He's saying go.
Okay.
It's just me and you in the house.
All
now,
right,
Barry.
there we go.
Oh, this is great.
Have a party.
So yeah, that's the biggest issue for us, and I think we've solved it. The new battery pack will arrive that has a DC port that can go on an aeroplane. And that's been the biggest headache.
How are you guys going to keep that, to maintain that charge when you're up in the? Also, that adds a lot of weight too. I gotta think.
I have no idea. Paul, you know how I said Paul's a great visionary?
Yeah.
He's also the best bullshit artist. I usually just say he's also the best salesman.
Yeah.
But when he talks to me, I can generally say, I don't see how this is going to work. But he sells it so well to everyone else in the group. It's like, this will be fine. But generally, it's me running up behind him, picking up all the slack, going, fuck, this is much. I'm drowning here. This is fucked. And Paul's just like, see, I told you it'd work. And I'm sweating. I've lost weight.
Yeah.
I'm like now stressed out. I'm losing hair. And I'm like, yeah, it went really good. I think there are a few things we can fix, but it went okay. It's just like, yeah. But he's like, see, I told you it would work. And I'm like, yeah, but the way you said it was A to B. It's not. It was A to Z.
Yeah. Twice.
So, yeah. And he still, and I think he knows it, but I think he's just like, well, we're not going to dwell on it. Well, you've learnt. Michael, you've now learnt. Now we can do it.
Yeah.
And yeah. But he can see such a big brain idea, and if we didn't do the ambitious ideas he did, I don't think we would be doing a trip like this to Europe. I don't think we would have done a gaming chair. I don't think we would have done a raft, because every time I was just like, I don't know how we're going to do this, dude.
Yeah.
And we managed to pull it off. And sometimes it's shoddy and it's shitty and the footage comes out crap, but we push it together. But if you look at it afterwards and you're like, fuck, we actually did this. This is great.
Yeah. And that brings me into the next point. Out of all your adventures, the Kilauea video, the parachuting, the boating,
oh my God,
the beer tasting, calendars, you guys have done so much. Out of all of that, which was your least favorite out of all that?
Kilauea.
The video or making the car?
Kilauea. Just everything about the Kilauea.
Really?
I enjoyed the music video.
Yeah.
I got my brother to film that one. That was a fun day. That felt very community spirited, because we got some local content creators to come out and be part of it as well.
Yeah.
And that was just fun. We had a local dance group who are really talented.
Yeah.
They came out, they got involved, they laughed. Like it felt fun.
Yeah.
That part of the Kilauea was a great fun experience. It was hectic. It was a massive day.
Yeah.
That's where I felt more in my element, because I'd been in those situations a lot more where we had a proper film shoot. I had a camera. I wasn't behind the camera anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what sucks about a lot of our footage. I never wanted to film anything. I'm not a cameraman. And Paul's just like, you'll film it. You'll learn. I'm like, fuck. Okay. Whereas we had a cameraman. We had an extra guy that came along and helped my brother with lights.
Yeah.
We were doing all sorts of stuff. The hardest part of that day was getting Paul to say the words properly, because he didn't learn the words. I'd printed off massive, the biggest pieces of paper with the words on it, because I knew he wouldn't learn them.
Yeah.
And you could I would be singing the words behind camera with like, in Kilauea, look sexy. It's a special streamer car. In Kilauea, do we drive far? And he's like off camera going, in Kilauea. I'm like, just say the fucking words. Like, he's very stressful with that, but it was a great day. Everything else with the Kilauea can get fucked. I hated it. It was an experience, but I'm just anything to do with like modding cars or anything, I just have no passion about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that was such an ambitious thing. The road trip, that was fun.
Yeah.
We did it in 48 hours with no sleep. But the Kilauea just kept coming up with issues. It was just expensive issues. And it was just like, do we have to? Putting in the sound system looked like it was smooth. I did not enjoy it. The face shield. yes, you can blame me that the face shield had the slit in the wrong spot and we had to send it back to get fixed. I hate the colada. Like, I hate it.
Because you guys ended
and
up
I'm very
driving
glad
that
for
to PAX or something like that, or a Dream.
Yeah, so he drove it. He wanted me to come to PAX or to DreamHack with him, and I'm like, I'm having a baby, no. So I washed my hands clean. Once it was made, I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I want nothing to do with it. So yeah, he drove it on the back thing because that was like the main reason we made it was to get it to DreamHack, and that's probably why I hated the colada so much, is because we were pumping so much other stuff on top of the colada.
Yeah.
Like I remember we did like in one weekend we did like the raft, the colada, the sea chair.
Yeah.
Like that was one weekend, and then the next one it was like the air chair, the face shield, the audio system. Like it was all crammed into like 4 days, and it was just like. And I'm trying to get footage out, and he's like, "Oh, we've got to get this out here. We've got to get the footage out." And we were trying to do footage once a week of like IRL stuff, and it was honestly like, this is the test and trial, and we were burning out.
Yeah,
I couldn't keep up with it. He was trying to do hardcore raid.
Yes, oh, that's the whole gaming thing of it. Yeah,
he's doing all of that on top of it as well. So anytime I get of Paul, so if I get a 12-hour day with Paul, he's already done 8 hours of streaming.
Yeah.
So think about that.
Oh my god.
So he's already going to be doing 24 hours.
Yeah.
What he doesn't realize is I'm pretty much fucking do 24 hours as well, picking up all this shit behind him. Yeah, like he was already going, like he had no time for family, no time for anything.
Yeah.
So that's why the colada probably put such a bad taste in my mouth, is because we had to get it done for DreamHack.
Yeah.
It was just an inconvenience at so many places.
Yeah.
On so much other stuff, like the air chair, I wanted to put all my attention on that. The sea chair, I wanted to put all my attention on that. Like, yeah, it felt rushed, including the music video. So,
well, the music video came out wonderful. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, no. It was the Frankie the editor did a great job. He did an amazing job. My brother is someone that as soon as he and I are on set together, I can say to him something. He has no ego. He completely understands. His communication is fantastic.
Yeah.
So I know that, like, how many minutes do you need to do this while I set this up? That, bam, let's get it done.
Yeah.
And he knows exactly when I say a shot, because I'll say to him, "This is what we're wanting. We're gonna be pushing into this, and then we're gonna do a quick whip pan. That's where we're going." And he knows what to do exactly at the time. We speak each other's language, and he also took the firefighter photos as well.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So
yeah, and the John B song is fantastic.
Johnny B is amazing,
isn't he? He's fantastic.
Yeah,
guy.
And Paul leaves a lot of the creativity ideas in terms of things. He'll give me a sentence.
Yeah.
So for example, he said something like, "I want to make a chair, like an ultimate gaming chair." So I went away and I wrote a big spiel, like an advert about like, "Have you always wanted your chair to go outside? Well, this chair can go on this land, sea, and air, and it's the ultimate gaming chair with only 99 payments of $10.50. Like you'll blah blah blah." And that's where it evolved from. So he let me kind of take his one sentence and let it come out creatively.
Yeah.
The same with the raft as well. It's like, I've always wanted to build a raft. So all right, so I went out and bought everything for it, and then yada yada. So it's a lot of fun to work with Paul, because I get to use my creativity again, as well as all the skills I learned, logistics and communication and things like that.
That's fantastic. And now, what has been the most fun out of all the crazy projects you've done at this point?
You know what the most fun? It was the beer video.
Yeah, I did. Well, I know it wasn't going to be jumping out of a plane, because I listened to that pod.
So
that didn't sound like it was your thing.
It was. I have to say, anybody that gets the opportunity to do anything with Paul, fucking do it. Doesn't matter what it is. You've got to experience it. Yes, you have to experience skydiving, but I'm not doing it again for fun. Like, you're plummeting towards Earth. It is the most. You can't describe the feeling. Like, it's just, there is no description of it. I've experienced it. Wow.
You're done.
Was I scared to death? Yes. I'm done. Let's move on. It's almost like every time my wife says she wants a new kid, I'm like, I've experienced going through childbirth and not having the baby. I don't want to do it. How do you keep wanting to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it's definitely the beer video. I don't know why it was my most fun. And the next one that I enjoyed the most recently was we did the Hot Ones challenge with another podcast. I just enjoyed that because it was just eating and laughing.
Right. Yeah.
That one was just drinking and laughing. It was the easiest for my job to organize and the easiest to enjoy, because I didn't have to worry about the camera shots.
Yeah.
Click, done. I can just sit and
drink.
enjoy.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
So I enjoy all the productions.
Yeah.
But that one specifically because I just got to drink and eat. I was very happy.
Oh, so now when you're away from the camera, you're not working on anything with Paul. You're at home. You're watching maybe some soccer, board games. What are some of your board games you like to play?
Settlers of Catan is a family favorite.
Yeah.
My son has started to play that one. I played many games younger with my cousin, like Munchkin, and I can't remember the names of them, honestly. Exploding Kittens. I'm only thinking of the ones I'm playing with my kids now that they're starting to learn. Like I'm at that stage. I've got junior Monopoly with Mario. That's what I'm playing at the moment. So you know how you like, what do you like to play now?
Yeah.
Think of what you like to do with children. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm doing. I'm at the stage where the video games I play are on Switch. Yep. So I'm playing Luigi Mansion 3 with my son.
Yeah.
The Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, like any type of games where I can enjoy and be with a family, like Super Mario Party.
Yeah.
We're all over that. Mario Kart, we're all over that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Settlers of Catan is a big one in my household. And I'm also the world champion when it comes to pole. And I wear that with a badge of honor. But no, most of my life now at home, and Paul's just like, you're always doing stuff about your kids. I'm like, well, because you're going to notice it one day as well. He's only got the one that doesn't move. Yet. And doesn't have feeling, like when it gets home, it doesn't say, oh, play with me, Dad. And you're like, oh, okay, I feel bad if I don't.
Exactly.
And now I've invested, because I worked so much on my marriage and my kid, I wanted to be a present father.
Yep.
And one that was involved. And I've worked so hard on that now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Paul will go through this experience. And he wants to be at home, but I don't think you really understand it until they start to talk, and you get to experience their first time at kindergarten. You get to experience their disappointments and their wins and their losses.
Yeah.
So right now, my life outside of Paul is purely for my kids.
Yeah.
My wife and I have some time in there, maybe once a year, but it's purely just for the kids. And that's where my wife and I get our best time, is when we're together as a family and we're investing in that. So that sounds really lame for all you gamers out there, but I'm sure a lot of you can. And that's one thing the community get behind me as well when I talk about my kids.
Yeah.
And they can share their feelings about it as well. So
yeah,
it's
good.
Wonderful. I like the community.
You're wonderful. Man. Well, hey, dude, thank you so much for doing this today. I really appreciate it. And the experiences, the advice, and the stories. It was wonderful.
Yes, take the advice from a 32-year-old from you. I haven't asked questions about you, but we'll do that. Maybe we'll get you on our podcast.
There we go. We'll do something like that.
But I have to say, the new channel will be called Before Death, and the Before Death podcast. Right now, it's going to be showing up on a link on the screen just above here. And now it's going to move here.
Oh, you're going to make this hard on me. Stop.
Now we're going to see how well he can edit, and he's going to make it like wave through, and now it's going to like fall through the screen. So you can visit all our stuff. I don't know how long this will come out, but our stuff will come out just before we go to probably 2 weeks from this filming date. It's the 3rd now. And the reason why we called it Before Death wasn't to be angsty. Imagine you and I sitting behind a bar, and you say to me, Michael, bungee jumping, and we lift our beer and we say, before death. We drink, and then you go bungee jumping and I don't do it. But no, it's all about embracing life before death, and it's not necessarily always just ticking off a bucket list, but experiencing different things in life, whether it be learning about death. One thing I really want to do is get somebody that works in the sex industry and talk to them about what it's like working in that industry. How did you get into it? What's it like in public? What's it like? All that type of stuff. We want to talk to politicians. We want to talk about people who have dealt with death, who are preparing for death.
Yeah.
People, which we've done that once already. There's so much we want to do. So sorry to plug myself.
That's all right. This is your pod.
Yeah. This is my pod.
Yeah. But no. Yeah, no, it's funny you talk about, getting people on who are approaching death and whatnot. It's like, you're what, 30s?
32, but I look like I'm 48.
Well, okay, so 50, I'm at that age where my parents are getting to that age. Our parents' friends are all sort of, and it's definitely a weird stage, because now you're thinking, oh, now what happens now when my parents can't take care of themselves? And it's like, yet you're still trying to raise your children. It's nothing prepares you for that. It's really a strange part of life.
You prepare for life. You prepare for school. You prepare for work. You prepare for marriage, kids, retirement.
Yeah.
You prepare for death in such a I just got to put things in place if I die. But you never prepare for how do I want to go into a home? What happens? I don't know if I think there is assisted dying here, where I don't know if it's been passed yet, but like for myself, when I get to the point where I can't wipe my own ass and I become a burden and I'm not talking and I'm a vegetable, I think I don't want to do that. Nope. I don't want to become a burden. And that assisted passing away. And I want to talk about stuff like that. And obviously people who I want to hear from different religions about things like that. Death is such a taboo topic. Sex is such a taboo topic. There's so many things that are taboo that we want to learn and experience and at least have discussions about, because we do talk about it a lot, and wherever you stand, whether you're far left or far right, it's sad that none of us can just stand in the middle and play devil's advocate with each other and have good conversations. And at the end of the day, just being like, I can still spend time with you, even though we have completely different opinions.
Yeah. Well, even different
so
cultures.
That's what we're trying to do.
Even different cultures have different taboos, It's like, and not even so much, taboos, but like, European, you have your topless beaches are normal. Here in the States, it's like, it's just, it's going. I can't wait to see what you guys come out with. It's going to be really cool.
And just be happy that with your different culture, you called football soccer, and I didn't just rage quit and throw the computer across the room.
Absolutely.
It's Australian rules. Anyway, Barry,
wait, hang on. Australian rules, what, football or soccer? Now,
football.
What are we? Okay.
The greatest club of all time, the Cats, the Geelong Cats. Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Let me not hold. No, thank you. Should we do the awkward goodbye like, you hang up?
No, not yet. No, we're not hanging up yet. No.
We're not done.
I got to wish you guys a wonderful trip, safe trip to, to Europe. And now we can say our, awkward goodbyes. Goodbye.
I was expecting more. That was it?
That was it. Goodbye.
That's the send-off you give to someone have you ever had someone that's directed porn?
No, you're my first porn director.
I expect that to be in your
oh, absolutely.
In your main, like, I directed porn.
Absolutely. Michael. Oh, that's going to be my tweet next. Is like, hey, porn director Michael was on my,
One quick story about that. My wife once came, whilst I was struggling to get work in the film industry, my wife saw a film ad during on a website where we used to look for work, and she's like, Michael, this is great. You've had experience in filming, you know how to edit, all sorts of stuff. And she sent it to me, and I read it. And then at the top, that's what it said. But when you scroll down, it's like, has to be okay with filming female erotica. And I was like, I'm okay with this.
Check mark.
I have no issue. And I sent it to my wife. I'm like, are you okay with this? And she's like, I didn't read it. So, there are jobs out there. If you want to direct porn, there are ethical ways to do it. Even that. I want to talk about porn on our podcast and be like, is it ethical? Mm-hmm. I think there can be ethical porn. Anyway.
For
another time.